Thank you so much for making Africa great and for making this conference particularly a success.
So thank you again. I hope you're enjoying Kigali, your stay.
Because for you to become a Stars Award nominees, you have to be a member of CILT.
So, the next 10 years is where it's going to happen. In 10 years' time, the world is going to change. Everybody in business likes certainty. We have 10 years of uncertainty.
The effort and the contribution from different players in this industry, we reached a level of having freight forwarders.
They are more interested in the sectors that are fast adopting, like the banking industry and etc.
I think we are aware that Zambia CILT is a body acted by Act of Parliament.
It's telling me to make it fast. Don't worry. I have just basically five slides, and it's the customer we meant to save the world. We
also should have a very constructive discussion. So thank you again. I hope you're enjoying Kigali, your stay. So have a great day. We'll catch up today in the evening as well. Looking forward to host you again in the evening. Thank you.
Thank you very much, CILT President Chwanda. And now for a keynote address for day 2, I would like to invite Dr. Newton Demba, FCILT, IVP for Africa and Chair of the Africa Forum. A warm welcome to you, Mr. Demba. Let's welcome our speakers on stage as we were doing yesterday. We need the energy from yesterday. A round of applause for our keynote speakers.
All protocols observed. Good morning to you all, and welcome to our delegates meeting day. A day we usually reserve to strictly deal with key critical issues for CILT. A day also would have the annual general meeting for our CILT. And as a way of starting the day, I want to talk a little bit about CILT within the African perspective. You will see that today we've lined up a few presentations that are really going to be coming from the international office to deal with the global perspective of CILT. And also we do have a presentation which is going to really come from Willard to do with the global issues, and also a presentation which is going to do with next generation from a global perspective. Now I want to really address 6 thematic areas that we are going to be focusing on is CILT Africa. You will understand that this conference is one of CILT's conference on the calendar, but with major focus on regional issues to see how CILT can become relevant or continue to be relevant, especially on the African continent. So the 6 thematic areas, I will quickly go on them such that we will get to understand the direction that we are really focusing on. The first perspective is on the geographical definition of Africa. We of the belief that the geographical boundaries for Africa define this by the boundaries of the continent. Therefore, any country or any branch which do exist within the African continent, then they belong to the African continent. And as such, as part of our growth strategy, yes, we have made some significant efforts to get into most of the African countries, but we still got a long way because Africa is nationwide defined by their boundaries. Here's about 55 countries. And if my memory serves well, we have not yet done half of those countries in terms of penetration. So we're really going to focus on all those countries so that they can become part of the global village, but specifically in Africa. Particularly as we look into the boundaries of the continent, we identified the color by language, by race, but all those things that makes us Africa unique. So we will be concentrating to make sure that the penetration strategies that do really address all those areas. Then the key focus, of course, growth strategy. I know that we're still growing, but of course within the growth strategy, we'll then be really focusing on next generation, focusing on WILAT. You understand that when we talk of WILAT or when we talk of next generation, those are interest groups that do exist within the CILT, the part of the CILT. And sometime back, the thrust would then be to establish a branch in the country. Then a key focus then to follow with regards to the interest group like WILAT and next generation. But there are instances whereby we've used this interest group, particularly WILAT, as a penetration strategy into countries and territories. And they've done quite well. The Ghanaian team did quite well to use that strategy as a penetration strategy into countries and territories. And we will then probably maybe look case by case as we try to grow into many branches in Africa. Then the third thematic with the African perspective, then probably maybe would to look at strategic positioning of CILT within Africa. We would try to make sure that as an institute, we have positioned ourselves in a strategic way. That goes on to say, one of the key critical areas that comes into my mind is we edge branches, edge territories, to make sure that they really partner with key government institutes, whether they are ministries, so that we can be a voice to record. And one of the key thematic areas that the obviously we try to look for is to become relevant or to continue to be relevant. You would have noticed that there is quite a lot of competition in other professional bodies, and the market we are fighting for is the same. Of course, as CILT, we used to then serve a particular niche, but then there is a growing drive for all other professionals also to jump into that niche, and we still need to quickly address that area. How then do we continue to be relevant? First of all, of course, we are very strong in our professional qualification offering, and we will try and strive to make sure that, of course, there is a process of continuous review. I was happy when I was listening to some deliberations yesterday that concerns the issue that has to do with syllabi, the review and everything. And of course, one way of doing it, especially we are dealing with specifically the new students, is to pay particular attention to the syllabus to make sure that the course offerings that we're offering are relevant and of course addressing issues that are related to Africa. In other words, then we should then strive to maintain a balance between the international flag and the Afrocentric approach. But of course, another quick way of doing it is through the continuous development program. We, of course, I can't take you back to classes, most of you to go and start to do the new things. But of course, as a way of continuing up, possessing key critical staff, those training providers, then they should also thrive to make sure that there's a drive in offering a professional, courses as part of the career growth. And in those offering, then we should then be able to see 80 to 90% of the content addressing key critical issues that are fundamental and that have been very key to Africa. Then the 50 thematic area that we should then keep on focusing on is equity. As an institution, we have gone on a drive to break the barriers. Of course, patriarchy systems in Africa, they've positioned men well above some women. But we, as a professional institution, we still continue to strive to make sure that we really address that imbalances that exist between the gender. And that comes by deliberate efforts, by making sure that women are fully represented. That is also within the CILT structures. They are fully represented, they are given the platform. While to speak on major conferences like this, they are given the platform also to contribute in other way. Because I continue to speak to figures and continue to quote some statistics and figures that have been produced that are also on the public domain. That if you look at how Africa, in terms of the GDP, we look and the figures statistics show that 60% of the GDP comes from SMEs, and SMEs, most of them, they are led by women, so they continue to play a key critical role. So then there should be deliberate efforts to keep on addressing those issues. Then the last thematic area then that I want to talk about is the governance structures. So as an evolving institution, we are more than 100 years old, and our governance structures, then they should speak to our growth, how old we are. We must continue to make deliberate efforts to tighten our governance structures, and that's the only way we should then be able to survive as an institute. So these are some of the key areas that I wanted to just speak to you about with an African perspective. And as Africa, we still want to remain as one of the strongest continents. As far as the CILT structures are concerned. So for the branches, for the territories, for our members, thank you so much for making Africa great and for making this conference particularly a success. We'll still continue to thrive to make sure that our voices are heard within the government structures, within the continent. There is still so much potential amongst us, and one of the key critical issues, of course, also to say, Africa Forum Conference, they've been in existence for a bit of time now, but as we continue to have these conferences, of course, the thrust then should then drive to add more value to the members and add more value, of course, to our partners, be it government. So today, I wish you a very successful day, and I would want to declare the Delegates Day open. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Demba. Now, for those who are not here on Monday, when we had meetings with the next generation as well as women in the Logistics and Transport. We are going to have remarks from them as they share some of their interventions. And that said, we are going to have a presentation on the next generation global perspective by none other than Mr. Usman Shraibu, who is here as the next generation deputy global chairperson. I warm welcome to you, Mr. Shraibu. The technical team, can you please ensure that this presentation is queued up? A warm welcome to, let us welcome Mr. Shraibu to give his remarks.
It is my pleasure to give a very brief presentation on behalf of the next generation. And I was told to give just a few remarks on our global perspective in terms of what we see the potentials of next generation in Africa. I'll do that justice by trying to establish some framework, because I understand there are some potential members of next generation here, and they will be very curious to know what we do and how we are structured. So my presentation will build around that, and then I'll cap it with Africa. So in next generation, we are looking at young people who are choosing a career in transport and logistics, or those who have started a career, or those that recently transferred or switched from one sector to maybe transport and logistics. So we cater for all that category of people within our network, and one of the value we offer to them is that we provide career support, knowledge development, networking opportunities. I'll speak more on that. Peer-to-peer support, we have a mentoring program, I'll also speak about it. These are some of the activities that the next generation globally looked at. In terms of our committee structure, we have about 8 members in the board, so which means every region is represented. Our global chairperson in Rose, she couldn't be here. So I'm representing her here. And then we have the regional chairperson for Africa, Naliban, who moderated one of the sessions yesterday. And we have Wafa from Americas. We have Surin from Malaysia, who is representing East Southeast Asia. We have Biman representing the South Asia. We have the BBN representing Australasia. And RI is representing Central Asia. And recently, one of our members, Richard Abla, was covering for Europe and UK. So we're working to establish a very strong presence within that network. Also in our structure, you see that in terms of the framework and how decision makings are done in next generation, we have the trustees, which the global convener sits as the advisor to the trustee. Next generation artists, including the IMC, which are alternatively represented there. And we have 10 regional committees which are also shared out there, and the local chapters which are branches. And one of the branches that was recently launched yesterday was the Rwandan branch, which is a welcome development for the next generation Africa. So currently this is the network of where we are in terms of presence. Few countries are sleeping up. I will speak on that, especially from Africa. We have lost membership around there, but in terms of coverage, we are here, so we have a very strong and diverse network around. In terms of segmentation focused, we are focused on students, of course, the graduates, early career professionals, and mid-career professionals. So we try to use up on the age, because it was a young professionals network, so we had to do a transition to make it very inclusive forum where we cater for different categories of membership. I take this milestone from 2020. I believe that is where this current committee is being set up. Some of the achievement that we have made, can see that the committee which I introduced earlier were formed in 2020, and we have developed all the structures. And within a year, we launched Central Asia, which became one of the face of next generation within the region. And we've initiated discussion with Turkey, Oman, and Dubai, and these are all in progress. We held the annual We Inspire Summit in Australia in Perth. I think some of the people that were attended, see some of the young CEOs that attended. It was a great event. And beautifully, this one we launched the next generation in Rwanda. And today we will also be presenting the Chief TT also not a Next Generation Excellence Award. So watch out for that later on.
We'll not only look at the same programs that we have done, we have actually revamped the program based on what we have got the feedback from the skill survey. And also we are trying to develop sort of programs. Basically now stackable programs have to be looked at, because now students are, most countries, the future is that you will not look at formal education, you might look at specific programs, needs the corporate specifically. So we need to look at those areas, especially in the case of ESG, DEI agenda and all of that. So we are looking at those areas as well. And the most important part is the governance in all what we do. That's why, although we have 20 countries already has a contact, we never want to immediately go and set up, because we want to first get ourselves fully convinced that the governance process is in place. So as you all know, PILAT is governed by the PILAT Forum guidelines, which was approved by the IFC, then finally the court in 2018, and that's our Bible, I would say. So all of us, as I mentioned yesterday, have to be fully familiar with how we govern ourselves in that document. It's uploaded into our website and the DMS as well. So please read it and then we can understand. So we have this Global Secretariat. During my tenure, the Global Secretariat is sitting in Ghana office. I can't see Patrick here. Doreen is in that office. Doreen and Patrick is running the Global Secretariat. So please share all your communications, anything that you do with the Secretariat, because they are the ones who are coordinating everything for PILAT. Finally, whatever you do, if you keep it to yourself, nobody will know. We can't promote what we do. So we created a role called Media Coordinator, and that really helped us to grow. And we are through social media platforms and also our quarterly magazine, Wings of Change, a newsletter which we publish already. This was launched in 2021 October. We have already published. 8th edition will be out in July. 7th edition was published last week. So please send in your country news. We feature that, and also we welcome all your member articles. We feature member articles that are relevant for that particular theme, and please share with us. We are happy all member articles to be published in that newsletter. And this is what I meant. So this is the last edition, our page. These are the social media platforms we are present. We gained a lot of traction through LinkedIn, Twitter and all of that, Instagram, to cater into different audiences. Sometimes it's a humongous task for Amra to do this, managing all these social media platforms. But nevertheless, we are managing as of now. And finally, the most important thing is the succession. PILAT is not an individual. Individual cannot run PILAT. People may come and go, but the organization must have a strong foundation to move forward for the next decade or so. So we need to really find succession. So we've developed a succession plan wherein we have to identify young leaders to join our family. So in that respect, we launched the Stars of PILAT program. The idea came in from Dr. Doreen from Ghana. And her idea was built on that, and we now developed an award. So the initial award was actually highlighted and nominations were called. Unfortunately, we didn't get many nominations from Africa, sad to say that. Because for you to become a Stars Award nominees, you have to be a member of CILT. If you are not a CILT member, you can't be part of PILAT. So therefore, some of the nominations that we got were not CILT members. So Fortunately, out of the top 10, there is one Ghanaian who has been identified there. So this year we have requested for nominations, we've extended the nomination. This is going to be an annual affair. This is the top 10 stars of Villa that we have identified from the countries. So this will actually help us to identify future leaders, and that will help us to develop a pipeline of future leaders, and then our Vilat legacy can continue. And the one final thing that I want to highlight here is now we have been growing rapidly, right? Now when you become bigger and bigger, you need to really look at the processes. You need to look at the governance. So what we did was we looked back and thought from now on we need to focus on consolidation. In a life cycle, you know, we had an idea generation, then we had a growth path, now we are in a kind of a consolidation phase, otherwise it might, you know, come down, crash land. So we don't want that to happen. So we wanted that strong foundation. And if you look at the 38 countries that we are present, as I mentioned to you earlier, 20 countries are there in the pipeline. So what we did was we wanted to understand the maturity level of Vilats in each country. In the last 2+ years, we've added 19 to the family. We had 19 before, but we need to understand how are they performing now. What support do you need? Who are having best practices? Can we learn from each other? So that has been the reason why we started this, to support each other. So we identified a scoring system, 0 to 3. In fact, I'm happy to say this was discussed with CILT International also. Mark also gave us a lot of support, our Secretary General. So kind of extension of the BCG matrix we used, right, but in a different way. So we have scored. Some of the information I just got a little while ago was from some countries, but I tried my best to include all of that into this. So I'm not going to each and every area. So we have 2 elements we are looking at. Compliance. The second element is the impact we are making in countries. So each and every item has a point, and you need to go through that and mark from 0 to 3. Right? So under governance, the compliance, we look at whether we are complying with forum guidelines, brand guidelines, succession plan whether in place, whether you are attending meetings, timely submission to the IMC meeting, whether you have a membership record in place, regular news upload to the website. So some under compliance, the impact. Right? So when we did that, we identified the 4 boxes. The x-axis was the impact, y-axis was the compliance. So if you're only looking at compliant, we call compliant countries. If you're only focusing on the impact, not compliance, we call them impactful countries. If you don't do anything, we are saying inactive. But if you're mature, both are good on both fronts. So when we do like that, we can now focus who are having best practices, who needs support, who needs to make an impact although you're compliant. So this has really helped us to do that. So from February we are working on it. We trained everybody, country chairs to do the scoring and all that. Now we need to calibrate this because country chairs did this in collaboration with the global vice chairs, respective. So we are now, I just plotted it. I'm happy to say most of them are in the top left-hand quadrant, which is good news. Otherwise, we've been growing mindlessly, somebody might say, but you're not making an impact or you're not compliant. But of course, there are a few countries, I didn't deliberately put the names of the countries. This is not a competition, just to understand how we can support each country well. So you see the country-wise, the countries that are yellow have not submitted their reports yet. But we are pushing, but it's a good response. Out of the 33 countries have responded. Now this is the platform for us to now work on. And we will reach out to each and every one of you, and also to CILT specifically, because there are parents. Vilat cannot operate without the support of parents. So therefore, I really would urge and request your support from all the CILT presidents who are present here today. Please support your child, one of the children, Vilat, because with your support only we can move forward. When we grow members, the female members, CILT will benefit because membership will go up. When we do capacity building and make more women capable, the industry will make an impact to the industry. CILT brand image will improve. So therefore it's a win-win. Same goes with the next generation as well. So together we can be stronger. So that's the message I want. Because I know some countries, yesterday when I had meetings, some of them don't get any support. Some of them don't get a seat in the CILT Council because in our foreign guidelines, we clearly say village chairperson should be part of the CILT Council. So that you get to know what they do and we get to know what CILT's priorities are. So that's a two-way thing. So please support us, right? And finally, this is the secretariat who does all the supporting. Meeting coordination, any reports, any guidelines, anything that you want. So I'm thankful, unfortunately Lori couldn't make it today. Patrick, if you're here, thank you very much for the good work you do. Before Patrick, it was Naliban who was supporting us. Thank you for everyone, present and past. It was Vicky's office who did that. Thank you for supporting this organization in the past 7 years. And they have to do all this coordination to make our forum and support CILT and provide reports so that CILT will understand what we do. So with that, I would like to conclude my presentation. This is our last IWD presentation. Together, we can climb any mountain. Thank you very much. It's stronger together.
Thank you very much, Ms. Candy. And indeed, that is a lot of work that Willox does to make CILT overly inclusive to members. Our next presentation is on CILT International Strategic Direction by Mr. Paul Sintas, CILT International President. A warm welcome to you.
So, what does that experience actually tell me? What have I learned from all these things I do, or what have I learned from what I've had? First of all networks, I consider CILT part of this one network, have the similar post-COVID challenges, and that's something that we'll see as we follow through. They have, I think people found a way of working during the COVID period that involved being more isolated, less time on network, more autonomous working. More people work from home and disconnected from their own networks, and that's something that we've ultimately got to go back. But it also told me, and I want to do that, all of the organisations I'm involved with, is if you value something, you've got to take care of it, and it's really important with these organisations that somebody's there who's passionate and who cares and wants to drive them forward because they have a very important part to play, and they're very easily overlooked. They're also very easily lost and not very easily recreated, so it's very important that we make sure we take good care, and the leaders have a very good understanding of what's required to make sure they prosper. Within the wall, some risk is acceptable, but not danger. So continually, the control minds of the trustees of the organisations must make sure that they're always pushing things to the limits, but not beyond them. Part of that is building on solid foundations. If you want to build an organisation, if you want to grow an organisation, it must be on a solid platform. There's absolutely no advantage of being an organisation that becomes too grows too quickly, ultimately fails, and you never achieve the objectives that you want to. For CILT, really, first of all, I think anybody who's seen this is that they are our international, and it's fair to say that ultimately everything we do is for the members, for the recruiting members. Actually, for the members that aren't part of the governance of the country, that aren't the faces behind the organisation, probably the members that we rarely hear from, but the members who actually benefit from what we do, because they are actually the people that we serve and the people we're working for. So CILT really is for the members, so everything that we do has to be to their benefit, and the question I would always ask, particularly when it comes to leading a proposition, is what's in it for the members? What are we doing for them? How is it advancing them? Lastly, I think I let it before then become complacent. It's very easy to get carried away with the moment. It's really easy to believe that you're better than you are, or you're valuable, or you can do things you can't. The reality is that we continue to have to look at ourselves in the mirror and make sure that we are still doing what we need to do, and we're doing the very best of every single way we can. And lastly, and something I do is keep looking for the good in the bad and the bad in the good. So never ever accept everything as being right. We've got to continue to review ourselves, continue to look in the mirror again, and see if we're doing all the right things for all the right reasons, and continue to evolve and change. So, post-COVID, as we came out of COVID, I had the honour of following Razak Malik as National President. Razak did a fantastic job of steering the Institute through the COVID period, and I have great respect for everything he achieved there. My role was to take CILT back out of the COVID period, and it was a significant challenge because the world had fundamentally changed, and the world was continuing to change, and the world was trying to find a new way of doing things that would be acceptable for the future. So what we soon discovered is that we had, you will know, you are here, you maybe haven't come here, you know we have a great institute, and it has a fine heritage. It's a fantastic story. It's something that you are proud, I'm sure, to go out and talk to people about. When you say you're a member of CILT, you can't help but tell everybody about the institute and the journey it's been on. Also, I'm talking to you now, but I'm referring to you as well, the members are amazing people. And coming here for the last 3 days is just reminding me what a fantastic group of people involved with CILT. How much enthusiasm, how much commitment, dedication, time and effort goes into something that you genuinely believe in. This is not something that you can do a bit. This is something that it's almost a lifestyle. So that really is incredible, and not something you see elsewhere. CILT has grown hugely in the last 20 years, not necessarily in membership numbers, but in its offerings, in its education offering, in the way that it presents itself to the marketplace, in the way that the CILT International element of CILT had expanded its reach and grown through WELAT, through the next generation, through branch development, into something that's significantly bigger than we probably ever expected it to be. But in the same time, post-COVID, it probably outgrew that structure to some extent. Not dangerously so, but there are things that evolution had to quite caught up with. So what we needed to do was rebuild CILT's offering from a solid platform below, and look at everything that was below the surface, and make sure it was fit for purpose. If we didn't do that, we recognise we wouldn't prosper. If we keep doing something eventually, we just run out of steam. We needed to look at the new world post-COVID, we needed to look at the way in which our members expected us to support them through this time, and we needed to make sure that we built an institute that would support them for the long term. And of course, what we recognised was the world was changing really fast, and the pace of change now is unprecedented. Previously, we could have had a new product that would lasted 10 years, but now obsolescence is continually coming around the corner. The pace of change, the new technology, the new ways of working, the ways in which people are innovating, the ways in which people like you are continually thinking new ways to do things, is something that the industry has to keep up with. And it's never been so quick. And that's something you see in all aspects of life, but certainly within the institute's work as well. So, in a way, we arrived at the banks with a little bit concerned. Our heart was strong, but our governance and structure were quite weak. We've been so focused on developing our organisation, it may be around requirements and payment behind. And I can't blame you for that. That's not a criticism of anything at all. It's just something we need to do around. From my background and my experience, I recognise that the platform we built on is important. The governance documents, just as Andy said in the previous presentation, are critical to making sure that we all have a we needed a top-down review to stress test the organisation. We need to make sure that everything we did still worked. We've been undertaking that for a period of time. We look at the things that we do. We put in the process in place to make sure that we can support our members accurately, appropriately. Our finances and our revenue model were unstable and high risk reasonably. We were very dependent on educational income. Of course, during COVID, we realised how educational income was difficult to achieve when people were without members educated. We didn't have as many online languages as potentially needed. There were a number of things that meant that we couldn't guarantee our revenue streams. Of course, what I'd like to do, what I'd like to do is look at that in the context of the capitation fees that we charge to our institute as well. The membership numbers were uncertain. We looked at the data we had, and it didn't appear that we had a complete account of exactly what the membership consisted of. Not everybody had been completely maintaining the membership databases. We really didn't know all this was. That was really important because we needed to know who we were serving. While we were doing that, of course, we also mindful of the fact that something's already mentioned here on here today is that the competition still exists for everything we do. There are other people out there offering training products, educational products, and services that offer membership opportunities. And we know the best, we know with the best value, we know that we're the ones who people should come to. and competition is good in that way. But we still need to have our own competition and make sure that we're looking at the best practice everywhere and understanding how it affects what people do. And lastly, and the point that we'll say is this is not unusual, all membership organisations, particularly post-COVID, will experience similar issues and having similar thoughts and similar considerations. So it's really important that we just took a long hard look at ourselves and made sure that we were doing the right things. And as a result of that, we had key actions that we recognised and we needed to take. So, first thing we need to do, and we'll continue to do, is to revise, modernise and complete our governance documents. By that I mean the institute's governance documents, not necessarily the branch documents or the local documents, but our beating heart, the piece of paper that tells us exactly what we're all about. We need to gain control of our finances, make sure that they were correctly reported, that we had key performance indicators in there so we were going, we had measures in there so we could see how we were performing, and that we were good, strong, viable, and met all the criteria that we have to register as a UK charity. It's really important to look at this way, and it wasn't as good as it could be, so we put that right now. We need to put in place a team that can deliver CILT's international objectives. We've got some of the team here this weekend. I can see Ruth now. And for those who've met that team, I'm sure you'll find that they're doing an outstanding job in listening to you, looking at the educational products that you're acquiring, they're helping you develop strategies, helping you to work out how to grow and how to manage your countries and territories. So certainly we've got some very good capable resource in place now to support you on your continued development journey. We had to build a solid platform for which we can scale. We all want to grow, we all want to get bigger, we want to be part of a bigger and more capable organisation, because we all know that we only really scratch the surface of the medical professionals that work in the sector and as part of the organisation. And we all will know with our professional lives people who should be members of CILT and aren't. But we need to be able to bring those people on board, and we need to be able to scale safely, and we need to do it without a dream. We need to make sure we deliver consistently globally, that the experience that people have is acting globally, but working locally is important, and we have to have some kind of balance between the two. But the reality is that CILT needs to stand for something across the globe, and everybody needs to understand what that stands for, and it has to have a certain flavour that everybody appreciates. And lastly, and we're only taking now, review our education materials, make them relevant to the modern world, make them relevant to the post-COVID world, but also our support resources, but also to make sure we continue to do that. That is not our process that we undertake every 5 years. The pace of change is such that we've got to continually develop our educational offerings. We've got to continue to listen to the marketplace, and we've got to continually adapt and evolve so that everything we do is actually cutting edge. And to do that, as well, to be honest, CILT needs your input in telling us what's happening in the marketplace so that we can then change our educational offerings to suit what we need in the market. This is not about leadership, this is about a combined effort to deliver a more worthy product overall for people who are able to help. So, the benefits, why on earth we do this, why we need to change anything. First of all, with governance. CILT and everybody who's in a structural role is a rotational organisation. People come and people go. My time, presidents are like butterflies. We last for days almost. But the rest of the organisation structure tends to be elected, tends to spend a certain amount of time in a role and moves on. It's really important that we have, below that, a solid rule book so that everybody who passes through the organisation has a unique reference point. They can look at it, they can understand what we're about, how everybody else is working, what we're doing, and then they can contribute. What we can't have is everybody's individual interpretation of what we're trying to do, otherwise we're going to be consistent with our message. We need to know from the finances that CILT is viable, that we have the working capital we need, we meet the financial tests for the charity, that we have the ability to sort problems out and to invest in education products and to do the things that we all know that CILT needs to do in order to be the leading professional institute across the globe. So making sure that we actually know that we're here and right directions and we work them. And we also recognise that people are key to delivering our objectives. Putting the right team in place in the CILT and the Secretariat is key to make sure we deliver our objectives, because we have plans, but if we don't have the right people working on those plans, the plans are just words. They're anything for the Institute. So the people and the plan together will deliver what we need to do. And what we do need to know, and we've had the conversations on the delegation meetings yesterday, is that we do need to grow. We have the opportunity to grow, and we have huge growth potential in some areas. But we want to grow safely, we want to grow securely, we want to grow in a way that is for the long term. As I said before, we recognise that we still need to think globally. We are a global organisation, but we need to act locally. So local adaptations, again, something we're prepared to adopt, consider, look at, approve, allow to run with, and of course to take on as best practice that we can share with other people. And lastly, something I'm quite keen to do as well, as we move forward, is reduce our dependence on capitation fees and drive other forms of revenue for society. So that we can continue investing in products, but we have to take less out of the local economies in order to deliver what we want to deliver. And that's a process that will be ongoing. And another point I was going to make this, and a point of reason for why we need to evolve, is because the world in which we operate is changing, and it's changing really fast. And the transport logistics, the other point is, the transport logistics sector has never been so recognised as important to society, whereas we're now genuinely a critical service for the whole world. And everybody who's suffering from hyperinflation at the moment, everybody who can't get the goods they want, everybody who can't generate revenue for the business because they can't move the goods that they produced to where they're to be sold, now understand the importance of transport logistics. And we were a dark hour before COVID, and COVID has highlighted actually what we as a profession do for the global society. Technology is changing. What we're sitting here, somebody somewhere is working on something that's going to be another milestone game changer in something that we do. Be that app-based, be that technology-based, be that automation-based, be that digitalisation, be automotive technology, be motive power. So many different things are all being worked on. So many things are not going to be what we've always wanted them to be. And we have to be ready to rise to that challenge, and we have to be able to deliver services that will allow them to operate in this new environment. I love that picture of the truck driver there, just using his iPad. But it's reality, it's coming. Where I operate in the UK bus industry, the first autonomous bus route has now been established. You can now get onto a bus with no driver. And it's in operation, and it's a real thing. It's coming. So, the next 10 years is where it's going to happen. In 10 years' time, the world is going to change. Everybody in business likes certainty. We have 10 years of uncertainty. And the quicker we can adapt to that, the quicker we can adopt those changes, the better. But 10 years, I think, is the time which we're going to see a period of rapid evolution before we get back to a period of reasonable stability, reasonable forward protection. But that's fine, that's an opportunity. So in 10 years' time, I'll still be about, I won't be doing this role, but I'll still be engaged with our profession, still be engaged with our sector, and I'll still be really interested in what everybody's doing. But the question I continue to ask myself, when we're making choices and decisions, is how many of those decisions we make today will still be relevant in 10 years' time? How often do we think in the long term? How often do we fully embrace the changes that we see when we make our choices that we do? Because it's not all about short-termism. Working Muslim, the next generation, I'm one of the current generation, maybe the last generation, some would say, but I might have to be on the next generation. And understanding what their world will be like, what their expectations will be, and how we can prepare them for this fantastic world that they're coming into. Because they are people who are going to be members of this institution for the next 40 years. The next generation is going to be the person who is standing on the stage in 20 years' time, talking to his peers about what his, or she, more importantly, has a vision for the industry of. So it's important that the next generation are at the forefront of our mind when we consider the direction we're taking, we're setting up the institute's direction for them. One of the questions I continue to ask is should we actually, and we've got everybody in the room here for Africa to do this, should we actually have an international business plan for transport logistics? We recognise how critical, global governments recognise how critical transport logistics is for global economic success. In fact, Chief and I had a meeting afterwards with Rwanda's ministers, and it's really interesting to see how important they consider the logistics profession and the fact that they're asking to meet with us. So, should there be a more coordinated approach? Should CILT be facilitating a more strategic global agenda for transport logistics? Because we have that capability, and that's something that we can offer. Lastly, without a viable and sustainable transport logistics industry, the world may once again find out how important we actually are. It's only when you've lost something do you actually appreciate how valuable it was. We're in a period now where I think global governments still have appreciated transport logistics, but we must continue to remind them they've got to continue to support us, and they have to continue to invest in our industry, because ultimately we're actually the blood in the veins of the heartbeat of the world. We are actually continuing moving things around to make the world work. They're far more important than they appreciated. We always knew, they didn't know. They do know now, we mustn't forget them.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sintos. And indeed, the next, your presentation is a good segue into the next panel, which I mentioned to you is a panel from yesterday that we pushed for today, and is really to do with the future of logistics and how we can really propel this industry. But before we do that, I'd like to invite Dr. Demba on stage to share a critical aspect of today's delegate program. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for the beautiful presentations, which is very convenient, with that global perspective and next generation global perspective and international perspective. At this point in time, I would like to call our President-elect, Chief TT, to come on stage, representing the Council of Trustees.
It is a great pleasure for me standing in front of you and discussing a very important topic. Of course, we had some other previous important topics, but this one I consider it to be the most important one, since it will be discussing about the future of logistics. As we all know, the future is not something to predict, but it's something to be prepared. And the future is made of the same stuff as present. I'm happy that we are having this particular session when we have our students from high learning institutions, especially our partners from the Rwanda Polytechnic and the East African University of Rwanda, and of course the University of Rwanda as well. This is very important, as I believe that the future of logistics lies in the hands of all of you who are sitting here with us, but especially our future lies in the hands of our next generation. The future of logistics is likely to be shaped by a number of technological, economic, and social trends. Some few years ago, take an example of Rwanda. We used to have a logistics industry or logistics sector that has been driven by clearing agencies. At some point, with the effort and contribution from different players in this industry, we reached a level of having freight forwarders. So freight forwarders have been running in the industry for the last almost 10 years in Rwanda. As you can see where we are, today in Rwanda, after just 2-3 years, when we launched our CILT Rwanda, we have managed to bring on board almost all the key players in our industry. Yes, our present is full of challenges, but to be honest with you, the future will even have more challenges. As logistics always seem to be simple, but proven to be not easy. So talking about the future, it means we need to start today by preparing our next generation, by preparing our key players in our industry. Here are some of the key trends. I will try to summarize. I had prepared quite a good number of items and points that I wanted to share with you, but in the interest of time, I tried to summarize them. But also rest assured that all points will be covered. Here are some of the key trends that are likely to influence the logistics industry in the coming years. Together with those points, we also share some best practices that need to be put in place in order to reach where we are aspiring to reach as logisticians. Fellow logisticians, before I start these points, I also want to highlight that it is our moral obligations to sell our industry to the world. It is our moral obligation to motivate and mobilize more next generation, especially starting from these universities, to join our industry. The first trend that is likely to influence the future of logistics, of course, we have the digitization and automation. We've been talking about the third-party logistics. We know we are now, some of these countries, especially in Africa, we are now implementing the first-party logistics, others 5 p.m. But of course, tomorrow this logistics will be driven by 6 p.m., the 6-party logistics, which requires us to get ready and get prepared on time. The best practice in this area including investing in advanced logistics softwares, the ERP system. Yesterday I had a short conversation with some of our colleagues from IT department. We've been using, as you know, we've been using these ERP systems from other industries. If you go and if you take an example of SAP Business One, you will realize that logistics or supply chain management is left behind. It's just arrangement, they are there, can probably have access to some information, but considering the need of this professional, there are lots that has to be done so that we can be aligned with other professionals. There is sustainability. The logistics industry is under increasing pressure to reduce its environmental impact. Yesterday we had a panel that discussed about the green logistics. Of course, we are facing this pressure to shift from or to start adapting the environmental protection by implementing the green logistics. But all know we still have having some challenges that will take us time actually to reach where the governments, the regulators wish us to be. We have collaboration between logistics companies. I'm happy that we are talking about collaboration when we have more than 17 countries in this conference room. I hope that our local players who are here are connecting with others from other countries. It is very important the future of logistics we embark on collaboration in terms of business. There is no way anyone can succeed in logistics without having a strong network. So we need to have collaboration with our fellow players from other countries in order to have a strong network. We have talent management. The logistics industry, we need to attract and retain skilled workers to drive innovation and growth. As we all know, I haven't had any, when you ask your child what she or he wants to become when they grow up, I don't know whether you have already started hearing them talking about logistics or supply chain management. So it is our responsibility as the players in this industry, as practitioners, as the leaders of the industry, to start mobilizing or nurturing, mentoring our kids to get attached to this industry if you want to prepare our future.
As logisticians, we're going to try and use the time that has been given to us, and I'm going to call my panelists, and I'll request them as I call them, they'll start sitting from my immediate right. So allow me to introduce my panelists. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Mugandaji. My next panelist is Mr. Brian Myumba, all the way from Uganda. CILT, he's the head of Department Transport and Logistics Management, Makerere University Business School, with an experience of over 10 years. My third panelist is Mr. Eston Sakala, CILT, and he's the CILT Zambia Honorable Treasurer, MD Evolution Logistics and Solutions, Board Executive, Zambia Customs and Forwarding Agents Association, with experience of over 15 years. Can we applaud him? The next panelist is retired Lieutenant Colonel Kennedy Simukanga, I hope I pronounced that perfectly, CILT, who is the Honorable Secretary of CILT Zambia with an experience of over 20 years. Can we honor him? And lastly, we have Honorable Carlos Kingsley Ahengora, FCILT, Member of Parliament and Chairman of Parliamentary Select Committee on Trade, Industry and Tourism, with an experience of over 30 years. It's such an honor moderating someone with so much wealth of experience. So thank you very much.
Resolution number 5 is very key. Resolution number 5. Resolution number 5.
Good morning, gentlemen. I hope we are all okay. So, as we all know, logistics is a crucial aspect of the global trade and commerce, and with the rise of the different global trends.
Technologies that help you to give a better service and deliveries. We have already got some emerging technologies that actually can make us serve our clients better. And among them, we have got the drones, for instance. These drones are used on last mile deliveries. and we are using them in Rwanda. We have got a company called Zipline. We have got artificial intelligence that actually can help you optimize some routes. You can say, okay, I want to travel and go here. It will immediately direct you. Use this route because it is shorter. And therefore it will save you on time, save you on fuel, save you on your deliveries, and it will help you in many things. We have got also the blockchain. Blockchain is also another way that is helping us deliver services to our clients, and it makes life easy for the logistician. Then we have got another thing like Internet of Things. How can I locate my goods in a warehouse? How can I handle, like, I'm very sure, optimizing my time? It really makes your life easy. And then we have got automated vehicles. In Germany today, for them, what I said, the future is already there. They have got automated vehicles, they can direct them with, and then they drop and deliver goods. And then we have got, in all this, because of global warming, we think about green logistics. Green logistics, it must be a user-friendly so that we don't destroy our environment. And we use less fuel, we use less fuel, we use hybrids. Actually in Rwanda today, the government of Rwanda has given free importation of vehicles that are hybrid or are electric. So the future is with us, but it depends on how you define it. I think I've summarized it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mugangaji, and we'll be having a Q&A session later on, so I would request the plenary to take note of the different points being discussed just in case we have questions. So, Mr. Muyomba, Brad, I wanted to ask, how ready and willing are we as practitioners in the transport and logistics industry have to adopt the new global trends that Mr. Mugangaji has tried to tap on a few, Mr. Mujana as the speaker kind of mentioned a few. So how ready do you think we are and how willing are we to adhere to these different global trends and changes that are happening for the future of logistics? Thank you.
Thank you, Josephine. Good morning. I am trying to get your attention because this is the most important session. This is the future we are discussing. So we should pay attention to what is coming to us soon. How willing and ready are we as an industry? I would say the logistics industry in Africa is leading, but a bit slow in terms of adoption. The logistics business is a high-risk, low-profit kind of business, and many of the players in the sector are cautious as they take these steps. If I moved around the room and asked people about blockchain and whether it could work in their company, I may not get so many answers here about blockchain or artificial intelligence or Internet of Things. So we are willing but a bit slow, and that also affects the developers of some of these technologies. They are more interested in the sectors that are fast adopting, like the banking industry and etc. In terms of readiness, that is also another area, because even when you're winning, then you need to have the supporting infrastructure, you need the skilling. Mr. Muchana talked about the skills. What kind of things are we teaching in the universities? Most likely we're teaching a lot of history and not the future. Yesterday I was telling my colleagues in the next generation that we have now gone beyond cloud computing. We have added another layer called fog computing. Because the cloud is too risky to put all the information there, you need another layer of what we call fog computing to protect you, but also to be able to avail the information and the data that you need in real time. The other thing could be on the readiness in terms of the risks that come with these futuristic technologies. There's of course confidentiality, there's the issues of data leaking and privacy, and some of these logistics firms have their trade secrets and they may not be willing to put them out there. But in a nutshell, I would say, I would advise that we take up this. As people in logistics, we need to do what we call future-proofing our organization, because the only way you can future-proof your organization is by creating the future and being part of the solutions. We need to, I normally hear African solutions for African problems. Exactly. The logistics sector in Africa is unique, and we need to develop our own solution. When you talk about autonomous vehicles, what are we talking about? Are the roads even able to do that? Yeah. So we need to start developing these solutions which are African, and also to invest and empower the young people and these other tech guys to come up with real solutions, like African solutions. We can't continue depending and importing all these other systems that may not really favor the African continent. That's all.
Thank you so much, Bernard. It's interesting how you tackled and kind of hinted on adoption, because my next question to Lieutenant Colonel Kennedy is, what are the current challenges now in terms of adoption facing the logistics and transport industry, and how can they be addressed? Just in a few words, you give us a hint from your experience and what you think about this.
Thank you for the question. First of all, before I start discussing the challenges, I want to say that every opportunity that challenges. Actually, the thing we were discussing the implementation of the Africa where we are expecting a lot of opportunities for business, and as such, on the other side, we must also be prepared to also look at what the challenges in the future of logistics. That said, there are a number of challenges that the logistics industry face going forward, and currently we have seen the trend that there is a lot of technology coming on the scene, and technology requires actual investment. So a lot of logistics actually operations may actually face the cost of actually adopting new technologies so that they can enhance their operations. And logistics, one of its core objectives is to meet the customer's expectations. And the customer expectations are quite dynamic. So, going forward in the future, logistics operators, logistics professionals will have actually prepared to meet the changing needs at short notice. So it requires systems that are agile, that are flexible, that are speed enough to respond to customers. And how do I do that? It requires actually prepared future, meaning we need to have professionals that should drive the agenda. Okay, then we are talking about new logistics, which is now actually a compelling thing, probably, and looking at Africa. We are moving from the use of fossil fuels and going into electric vehicles. putting up such infrastructure is a big challenge, I think, for most of African countries. Imagine replacing the filling stations with electrical charging ports. It's a very big factor in economic challenge for Africa. So I hope leadership and you can look at that and see how best they can come up with a way to address that future challenge. Because, as usual, things are imposed from the West. So one day we just find that they have stopped manufacturing possible driven vehicles, and we propose to actually use electric vehicles. So are we ready in the next 30 years? So those are some of the challenges that we need to actually anticipate and prepare to address them. Otherwise, to say the least, there are so many challenges that we need to prepare as the logistics industry goes. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I think we are trying to pay attention to these wonderful comments and discussions that we're having. So my next question, and we have all talked about skills. Honorable Colleagues, what do you think these key skills should be? What are the key skills that will be required from the workforce in the industry? And comment on that.
Well, thank you very much. During situations like this, I wonder if I should speak as a competition or talk as a practitioner. I'm trying to stay in the middle and see if I make sense. It's quite interesting to note that people who are here and are all involved one way or another logistics. Of course, we all know that no matter what role you play in this logistics industry, most important thing that we all deal with is how to move cargo from the fastest possible time, minimizing cost and avoiding damage. Now, if this simple explanation, simple definition is what we see ourselves to do, it is important that we consider how we amalgamate our various strengths so as to release the necessary synergies to ensure that our product, the final product, is achieved. For me, I think that skill development as well is probably the most important in all this is key. But what African leaders should consider the most, which I like to dwell on mostly when I speak at H4, is the trade-related infrastructure, which of course augments the exercise of moving cargo from one point to another. It is very sad that the road networks will be interconnectivity that by way of air, as we have seen in the past few years.
We don't know what we talk about.
Meeting to today, started right from as far as concerned. And until we get all these measures in place, I'm sorry to say that AFCFTA is going to suffer a very difficult. And this, of course, is a very simple thing for everybody to see. Since I'm coming from West Africa, let me use West Africa as an example and some of my delivery. It is quite sad that today, if somebody in Nigeria wants to ship goods to a receiver in Ghana, these goods will have to move all the way northbound to Europe. Or reality, logisticians need to think and use what older systems of shipment to ensure that we get cargoes to areas or points at very short notice. But I'm sure we'll get to this point. So I would like to deliver the point now. But by and large, I like to say that whilst we consider skill development as important in this scheme of affairs, it's also important to realize that trade-related infrastructure is equally important.
Thank you so much. It's very interesting that you talked about skills development as important thing. And this panel that we actually have 3 trainers, including myself, Brian, and Mr. Mugambaji. And of course, we have at the university with us here. Oh, perfect. So this makes the whole panel full of trainers. So we see the task that we have ahead of us to put our, especially the next generation, and change the mindset. And then you also talked about something that I've picked in regard to shipping lines. And my immediate president, Mr. Sega, who is here, he knows as the East African Federation the issues that we are facing in regard to the connection between freight forwarders and shipping lines, and then with the trade agreements under the AFCTA. But those are issues for another day that we'll discuss another time. I know you cannot finish them. So my final question, and it's interesting, you also touched on time and efficiency. Mr. Saka, do you want to comment on the efficiency versus time in regard to the future of logistics? And I think you have some short presentation. I would request the technical team to kindly display that. Yeah? At the right time when you mentioned that, you can kindly take up on that question.
Thank you, Josephine. And thank you, Sir Joanna, for honor. And you asked me the question last, not putting me on the spot, but actually showing the best for last.
No, it's not putting you on the spot because yeah, it just makes sense that all the speakers have mentioned the efficiency and the time. So I think for the panel to conclude its form of comments on the topics,
totally understand.
It goes to time.
Thank you very much. So I'll speak to a few points regarding time and Josephine's question, obviously. And I have a few slides, very brief slides that speak for themselves, and that I'm 100% sure that they will eventually drive the message home. Right, so time. Time is going to be one of the most important KPIs in the whole agenda of SCFTA and the procurement of logistics and transport services. Okay, so as African professionals, it's not enough us just to get educated and fight for credentials, CILT or CILT or whatever it may be. We actually have to put into practice, what we have actually attained in our education. So
just a small consultation from the technical team and my panelists.
Thank you very much. I'll just be giving instructions on how to
work technology, future of logistics.
So, there has to be a complete shift in mindset of African logistics professionals. Also in the way that we do things, in our approach, we need to start, doing things and conducting our practice in a more professional manner. Efficiency in relation to time affects, depending on which player it is, be the country, be the service provider. Efficiency in relation to time affects the next player in the supply chain. So if we are not efficient in the way we do things, the way we initiate the movement and transportation of goods across corridors or across the continent itself, then unfortunately, it leads to a lot of things. It leads to delays, it leads to costs. If you start speaking to relations to just-in-time logistics, the delays feeding into the production line eventually means delays into getting the product onto the shelf, and then finally getting the product to the shop. And in certain economies, like in the West, Europe, maybe Far East, this could also lead to nonsense in millions of dollars, and also times losses in the tune to millions of dollars. So, SCFTA success is largely going to depend on time, on our attitude, on how we, deal with time as African logistics professionals. Time management is going to be very key. I think here largely it has been spoken to about area sustainable development. I think incorporating this now in the curriculum is serious note with regards to time management and also the impact and effects of poor time management in logistics and transport. I think is going to be very key. So we need to respect time, we need to value time, because at the end of the day, time is money, and I will, my presentation has already started. I will get to my presentation at the end. Thank you.
But assuming that Mr. Jefferson kindly remember the time concept that you're actually talking about.
Then from just wrapping up and going into the slides, that will speak to themselves. I want you to speak to the slides. Thank you very much. So, once again, I mean, time is going to be the most important KPI for the success of SFTA. So, I think we can go ahead and put the slide up. So I just have a few slides, compliments of the private sector working group. Presentation, please. And for SATA. So this is a report, cross-border report, week ending 26 March. So this is the latest information that you are looking at with regards to the cost at border crossings due to delays. So that's the first one, North-South corridor. You can see there that the total cost, these are weekly costs that Africa is incurring at border crossings. Weekly cost, the largest cost there is over $3 million on the Zambia-DRC border, Kasumbalesa. Okay, and the total cost for all the border crossings in the corridor is 7.6 million in 1 week. Okay, it's just a graph to show you. Okay, second corridor, Walvis Bay corridor, $1.3 million weekly cost. Okay. Third corridor, Mozambique corridor, also known as the Viral corridor, $1.5 million total cost, weekly cost. Darussalam corridor, $2.8 million weekly cost. And the highest cost there, looking at the orange graph there, is the border crossing between Zambia and the DRC, and this is cargo that is originating from the Darussalam port, destined for the DRC Congo. So before I just close my slide, I just want to refer and touch on to yesterday the question in South Africa, talking to corridors and other days, and we had the MD of former Mercy now, former Bolore, sorry, which is taken over by Mercy now, trying to articulate some of the issues around port operations and the efficiencies, passing on to the corridors and trying to articulate how the corridors, how the ports cannot be efficient without the corridors being efficient, and this speaks to this right now. So you can't have a situation where ports are operating 24 hours. So we're looking at time, we're looking at us trying to successfully implement the SCFT agenda. So ports are operating 24 hours, and then border crossings along the corridor close off at a certain time. So what happens? That creates bottlenecks. Where I come from, the Copper Belt in Zora, it's a warehousing hub where all the goods that come from the ports get warehoused and then re-exported into the DRC, facilitating interport trade. So once you have all that cargo that is coming out of the Copper Belt heading to the DRC border, you've got cargo from the ports, 24 hours, leaving the ports, heading to the DRC border. And then along the corridor, you've got border crossings, transit border crossings, that are not working 24 hours. Hence, these types of delays are going to be inevitable. And so we really need to start thinking about evolving our logistics in terms of operations as well into the 24-hour operation, because we will not be able to succeed. And some of the challenges that I mentioned already in terms of the concerns with the implementation of the CILT. So, as logistics professionals, then in conclusion, what I would also like to say is that a typical example, finally, is this conference. Yesterday, we were supposed to start at 8 hours. We ended up starting after 9. Today, it's the same thing. In here are seated senior executives of multinational companies, CEOs of logistics and freight forwarding companies, heads of government departments related to transport, etc. So we have to have an introspect into ourselves and see and make that change. If we are going to succeed with the ACFTA agenda, there has to really be a move in us to start respecting time and valuing time, and understanding that time is money and it's a huge cost to the African continent. Otherwise, that GDP that we are trying to achieve, that we are targeting to achieve, is never going to be attainable. Thank you very much, Josephine.
Thank you, Mr. Saka. The way you ended saying time is money, I've just written that. That was supposed to be part of my concluding thoughts before asking the plenary to come in, because numbers don't lie, and we clearly know that inefficiency will definitely lead to increased costs. And as logisticians, we're supposed to be efficient, but with reduced costs, because that is where the FCTA is going and looking at. So, as logisticians, this is food for thought. We need to think about that. So now, yes, please. Oh, please, Brian.
The Honorable is supposed to say something about the skills. He mentioned it in a generic way. I think he's still staying between politician and practitioner. But I would want, maybe for the interest of especially the young people here, or even those who are teaching, we need to think about two things. The future is about maybe two things in terms of skills development. One, either we are going to get good at using the computer, or we are going to do the things that the computer cannot do. So you have to take your side. One, you get good at using the computer, or you get good at doing the things that the computer can't do. Now, the things that the computer will do for you is data analytics, big data, stuff like that. You need to be able to utilize these technologies in the most efficient way. And it will take some kind of training in that line. Then the other ones are the things that the computer cannot do. Of course, things like negotiations and these are interpersonal relationships. These are things that you need to focus on as you move forward. I suggest that maybe moving forward, we have to study some programs for especially the African continental free trade area, so that we have some kind of harmonized learning and curriculum and stuff like that.
To create this balance of the two. Thank you so much, Brian. So over to the plenary, we'll take about 3 questions at most. I will ask the protocols to kindly help the gentleman whose hand is up right here, and then, oh wow. Oh, and then, my president, my apologies. Please.
All right, thank you so much, Madam Director and the panelists. My question goes to Mr. Mioma. As we all prepare for the future through digitalization, there are worries, especially from the next generation, that maybe IT would, to some extent, contribute or worsen the problem of unemployment. For instance, you find that a job that was formerly being done by 10 people can now be done by 1 person. So how do we embrace digitization but without worsening the problem of unemployment regarding I'm Bonnie Bagenda, lecturer at University Business School.
Thank you so much, Bonnie. Gentleman from United Kingdom, and then Mr. Seka Fred. So I'll start with this side and I'll move to that side.
Our young brothers and sisters, but also I would like us to make it 2 or 3 comments which are fully logistics. I'm very pleased when it's kind of this forum. I would recommend through this forum how we as a Western practitioner can we try to be stopping having like a political talk when we are in the forum, to be starting being more practical and press on the issues when we address our countries, our governments. We start showing them these are the issues we need to be done about. As we are sitting here and the future generation comes, what will be the difference between them and us today? If we also will be talking like we are talking today. We need to address the issues. What is our issues now as we said? As we are sitting here, 17 countries who are here. When you back home, what are we taking home to tell our government? Could you change in ABCD to be able to implement this CILT? That's what we're looking for the future. Second, future of logistics, as we are talking about digitalization, which is going to be, but who are the future of CILT implementation? We are not yet even as the African forum, African logistics, not even there, not even organized. What is our future for the next 5, 10 years as a logistics as we are sitting here? We are talking about digitalization, big data, intelligence, artificial intelligence. I have been in China in Alibaba, looking at how it works. Those are developed in 20, 50 years. But as a logistics today, I want to move my cargo, we want to from South Africa, from Zambia, from Mozambique. What are we having in a practical way to reduce time, to reduce costs, to reduce even some barriers, to be able to move our cargo? What are we planning to tell our future universities to be teaching on it, our ports? The third one, how in future conferences can we try to bring board on those, our partners? Let's say ports should be with us, revenue should be with us. Then we tell them, we need to have a ship in this manner to reduce time, damage, storage, and we go in a practical way. I would like to hear or recommend. We have some other forms for logistics. Next we have Rame in Uganda, for Rame is a regional African Middle East. We are having GLC in Mombasa next November. Those are the African forums we are talking about logistics. But let's be practical and tackle our issues as the practitioners to make sure our partners, business councils, owners are having really a trust on the logistics people we are implementing to discuss which are wasting time and wastage of money towards demolition, storage, and storage. We just always go to practical. Thank you so much.
And I'll tell you what CILT Mauritius wants in this process to establish. The government of Mauritius has been forward running. And do you know that Mauritius is offering itself as a platform for the future of logistics and transport and supply chain in Africa? We're a very small island. We are a tiny island with a population of 1.3 million.
It's not working.
Can we please, technical team, can we have a slide? Yeah, we're a small, tiny dot. But in this whole mission, future mission of China for Africa, Mauritius is positioning itself.
They don't identify this.
Okay, all the incoming presidents, make sure that your slides are identified there. Just write this because I think it's there.
They've done it.
Sorry for that. So as I said, Mauritius, we're a small dot, 1.3 million people. But yes, we are thinking for 1.3 billion people that constitutes Africa. And you know that Mauritius has offered a small portion of that tiny dot to the Chinese government to set up an economic and free trade zone for its mission, for its future mission on Africa. So China is going to bring in bulk raw material, process, value add, manufacture for the African continent. And this is where we want to position ourselves. So all my friends were talking about future of Africa, logistics and transport and supply chain. This is the new way to look at, because you don't need all the way to go to China to source what you require for Africa. You'll get it done in Mauritius on the free zone. Not only that, we are also building a sky cargo free trade zone, which means preparing ourselves to airlift high-end goods for the African market. So this was my most important message for you all. And of course, as any branch, and being from a very small country, we're a small branch, but we are rebuilding ourselves, reconstructing ourselves. We want to accompany this mission of the government of Mauritius as CILT Mauritius at the professional level. Right now we're small, we are growing, we're in a growth route, but we want to do things differently. We want to do things rather in the right way, the smart way. So we have asked the government of Mauritius to now recognize CILT Mauritius as a full-fledged professional partner in the supply chain, logistics and transport industry. So as an association of professionals, we want the government of Mauritius to now come through a bill, right, and make it part of the law that CILT henceforth, CILT Mauritius, would be reckoned as a full-fledged active and professional. So as you see, our membership is quite limited. We're a small country, but that doesn't stop us from thinking big. We think with Africa. And as any other branch, so we are growing, and we also focus on corporate members who would constitute our membership, let's say, of talent. We are, as any other club, guided by the mission of CILT, engaged into these actions. Our biggest challenge is membership recruitment, membership retention. As we all know, we've gone through difficult times during the pandemic. Organizations, corporates are reorganizing themselves. We have faced some challenges. We have seen the departure of a few corporate members. But then we remain optimistic because more than ever, the pandemic has taught the world the importance of logistics, transport, and supply chain. So Mauritius is no exception. And of course, we have got plans for future, as I said, but the most important is we want to be an active partner of the government of Mauritius in positioning itself for the future of Africa. Africa as logistics and transport, Africa as supply chain. Thank you.
That was sweet, right?
Like Mauritius is switch. Yes.
Mauritius is sweet. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that Mauritius is part of Africa. Thank you for that to call Zambia to come 5 minutes while we have Nigeria. Presentation 5 minutes again. A round of applause for Zambia.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is President of CIT Zambia. start my presentation with...
Point to that side. Point that way. Points. Let's go behind.
Just point to the screen.
It did. The screen is...
Thank you very much.
It's not the screen, they said we should point.
Where is the technical?
Okay.
Right. Okay. There we go. So I'll start my presentation on education. We had a total number of 399 students that were enrolled and sat for examination in 2022, and the breakdown is as indicated. We had 56% of the 399 were CILT certificate students, CILT diploma students 40%, and advanced diploma 4% only. 7 training providers are affiliated to CILT Zambia who offer training, and these are Zambia Institute of Business Studies and Industrial Practice, Zambia Center for Accountancy Studies, Lusaka Open Business College, Zambia College of Pensions and Insurance Trust, Strategic Institute of Logistics Management, and Transport and Logistics Training Institute. We also have established the student chapters in 1 or 2 universities. Currently, there is a student chapter at University of Zambia, and we are also in the process of establishing other chapters in other universities and colleges. On membership, we are sitting at 1,125 members, broken down as follows. We have the 12 fellows, 23 chartered, 527 members, 232 affiliates, 257 students, and 74 corporate members. During the period under review, we had upgrade of members. We upgraded 4 fellows, 7 chartered members, and 1 member, giving us a total of 12. Let us look at the next item. We looked at winners and the next generation. Winners Zambia managed to hold the executive committee meetings and the AGM in which they elected a new executive committee. I think for winners members, they have made the village chairperson for Zambia. She's in the house. We have also developed a database for young people in in Zambia to use in internship placements and mentorship programs. And this is coordinated by the Secretariat. CILT, Zambia Next Generation, has also partnered with our Secretariat in carrying out inspections on companies operating in the logistics and transport industry in Zambia's Commonwealth province. As you may be aware that Zambia CILT is a body acted by Act of Parliament, and this act entails that all personnel working in the logistics and transport sectors must be professionals, must be members of the CILT. So, next generation, from time to time, we ask them to help us in compliance matters. I wish to highlight now some of the activities that we undertook. One of the most important activities that we undertook was the AGM we held last year in August 2022, in which a new National Council was elected, and I was elected as president last year, so I'm quite new in the CILT industry, family rather. The National Council also held these meetings, the governance issues, including the other committees, finance, risk, audit, and technical. We also, in collaboration with the Zambia Institute of Audit Analysis and Research, conducted an impact assessment on COVID-19 on transport and logistics, so that we are able to have better preparedness in case of any future pandemics. We also launched a new electronic transaction processing system which enables online registration of our members. In collaboration with the Ministry of Transport and Logistics, we partnered with an organization called the Africast to organize a conference called Land Linked Zambia. Also, we do from time to time conduct programs on the radio just to enhance our visibility in the country, so that a lot of people know what activities we do. In the last year on activities, we also implemented the strategic plan 2021 to 2025, which focuses on the professionalism in the logistics and transport industry, membership growth and benefits, and growth of revenue based for the institute. Let's look at the policy and the stakeholder engagement. Zambia continue to support our ministry and the Ministry of Transport and Logistics in the realignment from where it was as Ministry of Transport and Communications to Ministry of Transport and Logistics. We also have members who serve on the national boards, one for Road Transport and Safety Agency and the other one for National Roads Fund Agency. This to us is an opportunity. We also had engagements with Zambia Qualifications Authority and continue to try and get the new CILT qualifications accredited in accordance with the Zambia Qualifications Framework Act number 15. The qualification still remains accredited and the risks being suspended. Hence, there is need for CILT International to expedite the process. I think this is the matter that we had a discussion yesterday with the PE, and I hope it will receive the agency that it deserves. Lastly, let us look at the plans and programs that we have. We continue to accredit training programs with the Zambia Qualifications Authority. We also plan to commence prosecution of employees that are working in the logistics and transport industry without qualifications, as I indicated that this is a requirement in our Act. We also are in the process of amending our Act to close identified lacunas, quite a number of lacunas, and we are in the process of this one, that we amend and review our Act. We are also proud to say, as small as we have opened up another office away from the capital city, Lusaka, to the Copper Belt, which is good for membership and development. We are also ensuring that we diversify our revenue activities by introducing new streams like consultants fees, marketing of logistics and transport services, and by using the website, which makes it much easier. For now, I think those are the plans and programs that we have, and with the little time IGP is giving me, keeps looking at me, I'll stop there. Thank you very much.
Okay, President, of course, my eye talks there. That's why we will share the presentation with the rest of the team. We invite President Nigeria to come on the stage while President Ghana is preparing. Thank you.
Have your president. He's telling me to make it fast. Don't worry. I have just basically five slides, and the customer will mean to save the world. So, CILT Nigeria. How do I start? Oh, I was going the opposite direction. Okay. 1 minute gone. We'll speak on governance. Basically, what we're doing today is to report on the activities for the last quarter, not even for the year, and for some of them that has been outstanding. So our motto is inclusion, transparency, and accountability. That guides what we do at the secretariats and also in our branches. Our structure is that we have a national council that is headed by a president, and we have 10 branches across the country, both east, north, west, and southern Nigeria. And in the last quarter, we had 2 new branches in Kano and in Calabar. We have modal reps for land transport, for which combines of road and rail. We have a mod rep for maritime. We have a mod rep for aviation. So all the modes have representation in the council. And also we reach the entire membership through specialized 6 council committees. We have a national secretariat based in Lagos and a liaison office in Abuja. In 2022, and in this year, we held all our statutory quarterly meetings. We had a national conference and AGM last year, which the president-elect was in attendance, and the was a very successful conference, thousands in attendance. We have commenced the regularization and the Companies Affairs Commission about the status of CILT. And in this quarter one council meeting, the nominations for board members was approved, and the nomination and cuts across the regulators and operators being in the private sector and those in the academia. We find it necessary to create a role for education rep in the National Council, given that our core function is training, capacity building, etc.
About 4 years ago, when Keith Newton was the Secretary General, there was a directive that was shared with the national presidents, which intimated that all governing councils should have a member of the next generation, the chairperson of the next generation, as a member of the governing council. Unfortunately, that's not being implemented. So we passed a resolution to ensure that we will follow up and ensure that this is being done and being complied with. And we would be requesting the support of IBB for Africa, the current and the incoming as well. The third thing is got to do with the establishment of branches. We have a number of our next generation branches where it is perceived as though they are in competition with CILT. We can never compete with CILT. We are a component of CILT, and we are a major ingredient in the fact that we are CILT's sustainability plan. CILT is not sustainable if we do not have the next generation being prepared. And so we passed a resolution that every branch in Africa should have a functioning CILT branch as well. And then also, CILT, probably because we are not that recognized as a country and at the regional level, we are not included in a lot of the activities that we have. For instance, by way of serving on committees amongst others. And I think there's one thing that would enable us to build capacity. Unfortunately, we always left out. And then also, we hope to ensure that we are able to leverage on the capabilities of next generation members within the structures of the CILT at the local level. And hopefully, at the next forum, we will also be granted that prominence that is desirable for CILT next generation. Those are the recommendations of the resolutions we had, but there are some concerns that we have, and we just want to take just about 3 minutes to share with them. One, I personally think that it is when you look at the structures of CILT at the regional level, I believe that we should have a regional secretariat responsible for running activities on the African level. And the reason why I say that is that we have CILT giving us an international vice president for Africa. We have WILT having 2 global vice chairpersons, one on West Africa and then for East and Southern Africa. And then we have the next generation regional chairperson. Unfortunately, we don't have coordinated efforts amongst these positions. And as a result of that, we are not able to leverage on the possibilities and the many things that we could have done together. So it looks like we are very fragmented when it comes to the leadership front at the regional level. The other thing also we realize is that in setting up branches, CILT does very little to no contribution when branches are being set up. However, probably about a year or 2 later, once the branch is set up, we have compensation invoices being shared and sent to the various branches for them to pay. I think if CILT really wants us to grow, like the way WILT is leading the way for CILT branches to open up, I think it's about time that we committed resources to be able to set up new branches and also ensure that they are functional branches. I don't think it's very fair to have individuals self-finance and then after that we bring up invoices for them to pay, when in actual fact they self-finance right from the onset and they do not have a way by which they recoup whatever they are put into the setting of the organization. The third thing also that we have reviewed and looked at is in terms of our membership. CILT membership seems to be a lifetime membership. I think this does not go well for CILT as an organization. I think that we could actually look at an annual renewable membership. We are supposed to be paying annual subscriptions, yes. However, I can still use my post-nominals of CILT, whether I pay my subscription or not. And none of you will hold me accountable. I think that we should be able to take a look at that and review our membership processes so that it is in such a way that we can, at the local level at least, have an annual renewal so that if you do not renew your subscription at the local level, your membership could be suspended. Otherwise, we're going to have so many people being calling themselves members of CILT, but in actual fact, we are not practical. The third thing, the other thing we want to make mention of is the membership offerings. Unfortunately, a lot of us do not have access to any resources when it comes to our membership offerings, be it books, be it libraries, and all that. I'm aware the CILT UK has some resources which it gives its members, probably because it was set up in 1999. As a result of that, over time, we'll be able to build some kind of information database. I am looking at the possibility by which CILT UK, I'm sorry to put you on the spot here, would open up and allow other CILT countries to be able to have access to those portals. And then after that, we could also help in building the database as we go along. Another thing we could also do on the African continent is to also look at the possibility by which we could also start building our own database as well. We do research at the local level, but we do not bring the research together in a common platform where we could all access it. And I think that is something that we should be able to do. Finally, there is the rhetoric about the next generation being the future leaders. The fact of the whole matter is that being the future starts today. If we do not have opportunities today, we can't build ourselves for tomorrow. So we encourage each and every one of us here, before you leave, kindly find that one person that you're going to mentor, find that one person you're going to guide and coach, so that by the time we meet next year at the Africa Forum, we can actually speak to the number of people who have been prepared. We have a lot of students here, and I'm always very excited to see students. But the fact of the whole matter is that at such time that we provide that kind of guidance, we'll not be able to do it. The thing about next generation is that we are called the next generation, but it doesn't necessarily mean that we do not know exactly what we are about. I, for one, have about 20 years working experience at very high levels, and the fact that I'm young doesn't mean that I'm not capable of doing certain things. We want to be involved in what is happening, so don't leave us out. Thank you very much.
2 individuals were nominated, comprising members from Nigeria and Cote d'Ivoire. The Nigerian contender stepped down, and the Cote d'Ivoire contender, named Karim Toure Yemita, emerged the winner. 2 secretaries from Rwanda and Ghana were also appointed to work with the coordinator. Appointment of Willard Africa Advisor and Willard Africa Ambassador. The AGM agreed that there is a need to appoint a Willard Africa Advisor and a Willard African Ambassador to project Willard Africa. Some of the criteria agreed to profile individual contestants. Some of the criteria agreed to use to profile the individual contestants were capacity, brand marketing, and knowledge of Willard and the Institute. In this regard, Barrister Ofongo Soro was appointed Willard Africa Advisor, while Anita Dewey was appointed the ambassador for WILAT Africa. Rotation of WILAT global offices. Members brainstormed on the need for the leadership of WILAT Global to be rotated as done by CILT International to allow countries from other continents across have access to the office.
My name is Ibrahim Abubakar Jibril. I'm the International Vice President and Chairman CILT Africa.
Where do you come from? Which country are you?
Well, I'm from Nigeria. I used to be the president, the immediate past president of CILT Nigeria.
So how do you feel to become the new Vice President International?
Fantastic. I see a lot of opportunities in Africa. I see a lot of opportunities for Africa to grow bigger in the CILT family. There's a lot of opportunities that we can capitalize on, a lot of opportunities that we can leverage on in order to grow CILT Africa and make CILT family in Africa larger.
So what are you going to do for the international? What can you expect from you as a new
international should expect that we're going to have an improvement in our membership base, an improvement in our education and training systems, improvement in our governance system, and of course, inclusivity in all we do in the African continent.
Thank you so much.